Welcome back to From the Bookshelf for another book club episode. We are once again taking a look at Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead, the first book in the series of the same name. And today we will be looking at chapters 6, 7, and 8. But before we get started, don't forget to like and comment on this video, as well as subscribe to the channel so you can get notified for any new videos we have with this series, as well as my weekly downloads on the weekends and anything new we have going on. So let's get started. So chapter 6 is going to start on page 75. So at the beginning of the chapter, we see Rose has been limited to basically class and her dorm room, but she is using Sundays and church to kind of get out of her this kind of lockdown that she's. So Rose is using church to kind of get out of this lockdown that she's put in due to her restrictions and stuff like that. And it says that, so the headmistress says, "I wasn't aware you had any religious needs. I found Jesus while I was gone. Isn't your mother an atheist?" she asked skeptically. "And my dad's probably Muslim, but I've moved on to my own path." So, well, I'm not really sure that's really true. She's just kind of using it as a way to get out. But this fact that the headmistress is like, well, your mother's an atheist, so you can't go to church. Like, I don't get what her mother's religion has to do with Rose's in general. Like, why do we have to assume that just because a parent believes one thing that the child, in this case, 16-year-old girl, has to believe the same thing? I just find that a little narrow-minded of the character. But then again, I think the headmistress would argue about anything if it has to do with Rose. But we'll just have. So let's move on to page 78. So Rose has asked the priest about this person, Anna, who was a guardian to Saint Vladimir, who is was one of the Moroi, and she's asking about her, and the priest kind of gives her a book to read, and he says, "You can learn about here and here. The next time I see you, you'd like to hear what you've learned." I scowled as I walked away. Great, homework from the priest. And I find it interesting that because the priest kind of told her, okay, I want to know what you find out, she's now upset about having to do this research. But wasn't she literally trying to do the research herself to find out about this person? So in essence, she's kind of upset about something she was already planning on doing simply because the priest made it homework. I don't know, it just seems kind of funny that she'd get upset about that when she was already going to do it, whether he told her to or not. Let's move to page 80. So here we see kind of the structure of like Dhampirs and stuff like that within the society. And so Rose is thinking to herself, however, many Dhampir mothers choose not to become guardians in order to raise their children. These women sometimes worked regular jobs with Moroi or humans. Some of them lived together in communities, and these communities had a bad reputation. And I find it interesting that I get that like the Dhampirs are there to like protect the Moroi, but why would having children and raising children kind of be like down upon? Because without, with the female Dhampirs being mothers and having children and raising their children, there wouldn't be any more Dhampirs, because you essentially need them to continue on with the species, or the race of like Dhampirs in the society, and without them they wouldn't have guardians to protect the Moroi. So why is that such a bad thing to be? So I know that we find out in later books that there aren't a whole lot of Dhampirs left. So they want as many of them as they can to be guardians, but if they're not, being mothers and having kids, then they're not going to have any more pretty quickly as well. So it just seems odd that that's seen as a bad thing within the structure of the book. So let's move on to page 83. So in this next scene, we see Mia kind of like attacking Rose and Lissa with water magic, which she has by kind of like dropping snow on them from the roof as they're standing outside. And Rose is kind of saying, well, what's the headmistress going to think? You can't, you know, it's against the rules to use magic against another student. And Mia says, that wasn't an attack, and it wasn't me. It was an act of God. A few others laughed, much to her delight. In my imagination, I responded with, so is this, and then slammed her into the side of the church. In real life, Lissa simply nudged me and said, let's go. So, I mean, like, I get it. She's making a joke, I guess. People are laughing, but she just kind of sounds dumb. Like this petty little girl who's like, oh, look how great I am. I just dropped snow onto you. You're all wet now. And it seems silly, like very petty and childish. And like, here's this character she's younger than them. And I guess maybe she's jealous of Lissa because she used to date her boyfriend. But it's like, you just sound stupid. Like, I don't know why like people think that's funny, because it's not. It's just you sound ridiculously jealous and petty and like some stupid little teenage girl. But I guess they're all teenagers, so teenagers find teenage idiocy funny. I don't know, maybe I'm just far enough away from being a teenager that I just see the stupidity of the comment. Let's move on to page 86. So Mason is talking to Rose. Mason is Rose's Dhampir friend. And they're talking about Mia, and he's saying he's got this dirt on her. And he says, okay, here you go. Mia isn't royal. I slouched back in my chair. No kidding. I already knew that. I've known who's royal since I was 2. Yeah, but there's more than just that. I almost feel like, well, then why not just say it? Why not get to the point? Like, I feel like he's kind of I feel like he's maybe trying to like, oh, good Lord, why can't I think of So I feel like he's maybe just trying to like drag it out to like hype up his news, but it's almost like Rose doesn't care about the hype. She could care less about any of that. It's like, I feel like the best way to reach Rose is to just get to the point and get to the like gossip and the important thing of what you're trying to say, and not being like, oh, well, she's not this. She's like, yeah, I already know that. What's your point? So I feel like if he just gets to the point faster, it would annoy her less. And I feel like as her friend, he should know this as well. So let's move on to page 88. So this is kind of an interesting parallel. And for those who've read the books, I think you'll see it as well, or have if you've reread. But Rose is reading about Vladimir and Anna. And it says this: and with Vladimir always is Anna. Their love is chaste and pure as that of brother and sister, and many times she has defended him from Strigoi, who would seek to destroy him and his holiness. Likewise, it is she who comforts him when the spirit becomes too much to bear, and Satan's darkness tries to smother him and weaken his own health and body. This too she defends against, for they have been bound together ever since he saved her life as a child. It is a sign of God's love that he has sent the blessed Vladimir a guardian such as her, one who is shadow-kissed and always knows what is in his heart and mind. So it's talking about Vladimir and Anna, right? But I feel like if you substitute Lissa and Rose in those parts to this paragraph, like it almost would be the same thing. Like this idea that, you know, Rose, like Anna, guards her Moroi, as they both do. And, you know, Rose is always there to protect her and to help when she needs it, whether it's physically or mentally. And this here at the end, one who is shadow kissed and always knows what is in his heart and mind. I mean, we've seen this idea that Rose can, you know, kind of go into Lissa's head and see what she's thinking, what she's feeling, and even what she's seeing when she's not there. So we see this parallel here, and we kind of like see that played out later on. But for people who are just reading this book, don't necessarily see the importance of that. But it's really cool that we kind of get to see that later on as the book and the series continue. So we're going to move on to chapter 7, page 93. So in this part, we have Rose and Dimitri are training, her extra training with Dimitri. And Rose says, I realize the importance of stamina and all that, but shouldn't I be moving on to something like with a little hitting? They're still killing me in group practice. Maybe you should hit harder, he replied dryly. I'm serious. Hard to tell the difference. And it's just funny. This idea, he's like, maybe you should hit harder. And just the way he says it, you can tell, like, it's, you know, he's just deadpan, like, probably not even, like, joking, but it could be that Rose and her sarcasm have met her match with Dimitri. Like, I don't think he's even being sarcastic. His just dry, you know, kind of straight hittingness just like has that feel of like straight up sarcasm that with Rose is sarcasm, but I feel like she's kind of met her match and she can't really like get out in the way she does with others with her sarcasm and her wittiness. I don't know if that's the right word, but she doesn't have the same effect on him that she does others because he just doesn't take it. Let's move on to page 94. So Rose is complaining about all the running that they're doing, right? All the stamina and stuff like that. And he asks her, if you see, say you're at the mall and you see a Strigoi, what do you do? And she asks, what do I do? Like, what do you mean? He says, he looked at me and didn't blink. You run. I repressed the urge to throw something at him. And it's like she gets annoyed with him, but isn't that kind of obvious? Like, isn't that what you do? Would you want to just go fighting a Strigoi in like the middle of the mall? I don't think that's what she would want to do either, right? With all those humans around. So it's like, that seems like the obvious answer is to run in a situation like that. Yeah, I feel like that is, or is that just me? But I feel like it's the obvious answer, but Rose is so focused on fighting and killing and learning how to basically kill Strigoi that she doesn't really stop to look at, you know, the facts that are in front of her and what she should be learning. Let's move on to page 95. And so we still have here Dimitri and Rose talking about or helping her being her. So here we see Rose and Dimitri kind of talking about her being Lissa's guardian, you know, in the future when they both graduate. So we see Rose here making a joke. She says, looks like I could get as far as the limited before the Strigoi got me at the mall. Not sure how Lissa would do. If she was with you, she'd be okay. I looked up in surprise. It was the first real compliment he'd paid me since I started training with him. So she's making this joke like, oh, I could probably get as far as this store if I were running away from the Strigoi at the mall. Lissa, though, I don't know. And he's like, well, I think if she was with you, you'd take care of it and you'd protect her. And it's this idea that everyone else at that school, everyone around her, the teachers and all of that, her trainers, all they see is like her right there, like this slacker. She ran away, she's no good. But like Dimitri looks at her and he sees what she's capable of doing. Not what she can do right now, but what she is capable of in the future. Like if she put her mind to it and if she tried, and he kind of sees that potential in her. And he seems to be the only one who looks beyond just, I everything that's happened prior and the running of the way. And I think there's a lot more meaning behind that than we kind of see right now at this point in the book. If you've read this book and others, then I think you might understand what that meaning behind that is. But I kind of like that he's, because like I said earlier, he's like this straight shooter. He doesn't like pull any punches. He tells it like he sees it, and this is what he sees. Let's move on to page 101. So 101 is the start of chapter 8. So Rose is meeting up with Mason, and he's asking how Alyssa's doing. And, you know, Rose thinks, it didn't surprise me that he knew. Gossip spreads so fast around here sometimes. It felt like everyone had a psychic bond. And this has to do with a dead animal that showed up in Alyssa's bedroom. And he's asking about if she's okay. And she's like, of course he knows. Why wouldn't he know? It's like they're psychic. It's not like they're psychic. It's like they're teenagers. I mean, that's what teenagers do. Like, one person has to know something, and then that one person knows, and then 2 people know, and then 4 people know. And it just keeps multiplying until literally everybody knows. That's literally what teenagers do. They talk and they gossip, and they talk about each other. That's just standard for anybody under the age of like 30. Putting young adults in there, because college kids probably gossip just as much as teenagers. So anybody under 30, somebody knows everyone's gonna know, especially in a high school setting. So it's like, don't have to be psychic, just have to be a teenager and listen to gossip. Let's move on to page 104. So this is interesting, the way that this is described. So they're talking about animals, and in this specific instance, wolves, in one of their classes. Wolves, like many other species, differentiate their packs into alpha males and alpha females, whom the others defer to. Alphas are almost always the strongest physically, though many times confrontations turn out to be more a matter of willpower and personality. When an alpha is challenged in her place, the wolf may find himself ostracized from the group or even attacked. So he's talking about wolves here and wolf society, but it's an interesting analogy for teenage society, right? You have alpha males and alpha females, in this case, like, you know, queen bees and the popular boys, the jocks, but more in this case, I guess, the royals. And you see that dynamic with kind of like Mia coming in and, you know, challenging the alpha, which is, you know, Alyssa in this sense. But you kind of like, this analogy of the wolves is exactly what's happening in this power play here at the school. And it's kind of an interesting analogy. And of course, if you keep reading in the paragraphs coming, like, Mia completely ignores that, and she's just like, has to go on about like the fox that was killed. It's like, but I think this is the more interesting thing about what was said, not Mia's stupidity, but she's kind of constantly being stupid in this book. I think she gets better a little later on, but she's just like, her jealousy and pettiness is so annoying, like downright annoying. But let's move on until 105. And of course, as I was saying previous, that like Mia shows up in this class, right? Mia raises her hand, and this is when what about foxes? Do they have alphas too? My question is, why is Mia in this class? We've already established that Mia is younger than them. Like, Rose and Alyssa didn't even know who she was prior to this school year, like before they left, before they ran away. So like, if she's younger than them, wouldn't she be in different classes? Why would she be in the same class as them? I don't know. It seems kind of strange that that upperclassmen and those younger than them would be in the same classes together. It seems like she'd be in a different set of classes that come before that, and just seems like she's just trying to be pushed in to kind of create this conflict. But it's like, in a normal high school and stuff like that, like, it just seems like maybe she wouldn't be in the same class. That's just my thoughts on that. So let's move on to page 107. If I can turn the page. So, one of the other students is kind of like attacking Rose and Lissa. Or not really like physically attacking, but verbally kind of like giving them a hard time. And Christian uses his fire magic to kind of like quell the situation and like attack back. And so a massive fire that didn't actually burn anything. Christian had used it offensively. He had attacked another person. Moroi never did that before. They believed magic was meant to take care of the earth, to help people live better lives. So, like, the first thing it says there is a massive fire that didn't actually burn. So, can it really be considered like an attack if it doesn't actually physically do anything? It basically just annoys, scares, and freaks this kid out. But is he actually really attacking, like actually attacking another person if the fire, while it's there, doesn't do any damage or burn him at all? So I don't know. It seems like a little more of a distraction as opposed to an attack. But it's interesting that Rose automatically goes into this idea that how horrible and despicable he is. He attacked another person. It's like, it's no more different and no more harmful than being verbally attacked, which they were being verbally attacked prior to what Christian did. But because he's using magic, it's worse, even though there's no more consequence physically than a verbal attack. So, yeah. The last thing we're going to talk about is on page 108. So, Rose is talking to Lissa about what Christian just did with his fire magic. And, you know, Lissa's kind of saying, he's not that bad. He's really okay. And Rose is shouting. It says, I realized I was practically shouting. He's out of his mind. He set Ralph on fire. I thought we decided you weren't going to see him anymore. You decided, Rose, not me. There was an edge in her voice that I hadn't heard before. And so Rose is saying, he attacked this person. It's like, well, we just established did he really attack him? He didn't hurt him. He didn't burn him. He didn't really do anything physically to him. So is it still considered attack? And he was helping you. Like, everybody was talking bad and saying these horrible things, and he like took that focus away from them. He did help them. May have done it a little more aggressively and a little more flashy and in a way that wasn't appreciated by too many people, but Lissa's right. He's not that bad. He's helping. He's trying to help in the way he knows how, and even if that doesn't really translate for Rose to understand, like, as a reader, you can kind of see that. So, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought, what you agreed with, disagreed with. Did I miss anything of note? Go ahead and post it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I'll respond and we can talk about it. Well, I guess until next time.